Most people live their lives thinking anger just happens to them, like it's some automatic force outside their control. Something triggers them, someone says something, the world feels unfair, and boom, they explode. But here's the thing, anger is never automatic. Anger is a signal, a warning, a sensation, and how you respond to it is entirely your choice. It's the gap between stimulus and response where your power lies. Every single time, you have the option to step into that gap, to pause, to breathe, to ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Does this serve me? Here's why this matters. When you treat anger like a reaction, you hand over your life to every person and situation that irritates you. You wake up every day vulnerable, ready to be hijacked by whatever the world throws at you. But when you understand that anger is a choice, suddenly you are the pilot of your own emotional plane. You decide the altitude, the direction, the turbulence you're willing to endure. You don't let someone else press buttons in your cockpit. You don't give strangers and circumstances permission to dictate your internal state. Mastering this doesn't mean suppressing anger or pretending it doesn't exist. It's the opposite. It's recognizing the sensation, naming it, and then making a conscious decision about what you will do with it. Will you react and escalate the situation, or will you use it as information, as insight into your boundaries, as fuel to solve the problem rather than fuel for chaos? Every time you pause and choose, you build strength, resilience, and freedom. You're literally training your brain to prioritize clarity over instinct, long-term results over short-term gratification, control over chaos. And the truth is, most people never realize how liberating it is to reclaim that choice. Once you do, the petty annoyances, the provocations, the tiny irritations that once controlled you, they lose their power. They become background noise instead of storms. Anger doesn't vanish, but your relationship with it transforms. You stop reacting. You start responding. You stop being a prisoner of your impulses. You start being the architect of your life. Every decision you make in that split second defines not just your mood, but your future. Most people underestimate the cost of uncontrolled anger. They think it's just a momentary flare-up, a natural reaction that blows over. But every time you let anger dictate your behavior, you pay a price. Sometimes immediately, sometimes slowly, invisibly, over time. It eats away at your relationships first. Friends, family, colleagues. They start to walk on eggshells around you. Your words, once casual, now carry weight. Every outburst leaves a scar. Every harsh reaction chips away at trust. You think people forgive and forget, but the subconscious remembers. The people you love begin to distance themselves, not because they don't care, but because they need to protect themselves from the storm you bring into every interaction. Then there's your health. Anger is like a poison that flows through your body. Each surge of rage triggers a flood of stress hormones, raising blood pressure, straining your heart, tightening your muscles. Over months and years, those moments accumulate, creating real, measurable damage. Scientists have shown that chronic anger is linked to cardiovascular disease, weakened immunity, and even shortened lifespan. Your brain, your body, your energy, everything suffers because you treat your emotional reactions like accidents you can't control. And beyond relationships and health, there's the cost to your future. Anger clouds judgment. It makes you impulsive, reactive, short-sighted. Opportunities slip away because you said the wrong thing at the wrong time. Careers stall because you burned bridges. Investments, partnerships, even moments of personal growth are lost when decisions are fueled by emotion rather than strategy. People with uncontrolled anger often wake up years later, looking around at the wreckage and wondering how it all went wrong, all the while believing they couldn't have acted differently, when in fact every moment was a choice they ignored. Even your internal life suffers. Anger keeps you trapped in cycles of resentment, regret, and frustration. It's exhausting, draining every ounce of mental clarity and emotional energy. Instead of thinking creatively, you're reacting defensively. Instead of building, you're tearing down. Anger steals joy, clouds perspective, and convinces you that the world is against you, when really, the only real victim is you. Every eruption, every irritation ignored, compounds into a life half-lived, full of tension, stress, and missed potential. Discipline is the secret weapon most people overlook when it comes to mastering their emotions. Most of us think we either have control or we don't, that some people are naturally calm while others are hot-headed, but that's not how it works. Your brain is a muscle, and like any muscle, it grows stronger with deliberate practice. Emotional mastery isn't about luck or genetics. It's about training your mind to respond differently, to break the automatic patterns that have been running your life for years. Every time you pause instead of explode, every time you breathe instead of lash out, you're literally reshaping your neural pathways. You're teaching your brain a new default, one that prioritizes clarity, choice, and action over reaction. The process begins with small, consistent steps. Start by noticing your triggers without judgment. Awareness is the foundation of discipline. When you recognize the situations, words, or thoughts that provoke you, you gain a window of opportunity, a moment where you can choose how to respond instead of being hijacked by instinct. Then, layer on practical tools, controlled breathing, mindfulness, journaling, or even simple mental rehearsals of how you want to act in moments of tension. These practices are like mental push-ups. They strengthen the neural circuits that allow you to stay calm, focused, and intentional under pressure. But here's the part most people miss. Discipline isn't a punishment. It's not about denying yourself or bottling up your emotions. It's about freedom. It's about creating space between stimulus and response so that you can act from power instead of panic. Every time you resist the urge to react impulsively, you reclaim a piece of yourself. You prove to yourself that you are not a victim of your impulses, not a puppet of circumstance, but the architect of your internal state. Over time, these moments compound. You start to notice that situations that once triggered rage now barely register. Your mind becomes a calm command center rather than a battlefield, and you start making decisions that align with your long-term vision instead of your short-term frustrations. And the real magic is this. Once you commit to discipline, it doesn't just change how you handle anger, it transforms every area of your life. Your relationships improve, your health stabilizes, your career accelerates, and your confidence soars. Discipline rewires your mind to favor strategy over chaos, intention over instinct, and mastery over surrender. It's the difference between living a life controlled by impulses and living a life you consciously design. Anger is not your enemy. It's a signal, a fire that, if harnessed correctly, can propel you to levels of performance and clarity you never thought possible. Most people think that feeling anger means they've failed emotionally, but the truth is, anger is data. It tells you what matters to you, what boundaries have been crossed, what injustices or inefficiencies you can no longer tolerate. The difference between people who crumble under frustration and those who rise above it is what they do with that energy. Instead of letting it consume them, they redirect it, they channel it, they transform it into action that builds rather than destroys. The first step is acknowledging it without judgment. You feel the heat, the surge, the tightening of your chest, and instead of reacting, you pause and translate that raw energy into clarity. Ask yourself, what is this anger really telling me? Where can I take this energy to create impact rather than chaos? That simple reframing turns a destructive force into a tool, a compass that points you toward growth and opportunity. The same surge that could have led to yelling, regrettable decisions, or broken relationships can now become motivation to solve a problem, to take action, or to push yourself further than you ever have before. Next, it's about channeling that energy into tangible action. Anger is pure power. It's the body and mind screaming for movement. Instead of lashing out, you use it to fuel focused effort, to work harder, to strategize smarter, to confront challenges with clarity and confidence. You can take that frustration and turn it into a creative solution, a breakthrough in your career, a stronger relationship, or personal growth that changes your trajectory. Every great achievement, every innovation, every moment of transformation has been fueled by someone taking their anger and converting it into action rather than destruction. Finally, mastering this transformation builds momentum. The more you practice using anger as fuel, the less fear it holds over you. Situations that once provoked you now become opportunities for growth. You no longer react unconsciously, you respond strategically. You're no longer a victim of circumstances, you're an alchemist turning a volatile emotion into a resource. Every surge of anger becomes a push forward, every frustration a lesson, every challenge an invitation to rise higher, to achieve more, and to prove to yourself that your inner power is far greater than any external provocation.